Hi, thank you for joining me today. Today I've got a speech prepared for you that I think is rather interesting. It's on a subject that actually is in one of the modules for this course. I did not realize that when I first selected this, but I think it's an important subject, one that often gets misconstrued in today's world. It is the Dunning-Kruger effect. That's kind of a buzzword now, so allow me to explain what that is. The Dunning-Kruger effect is, very simply put, the idea that a person who knows very little has an extremely irrational amount of confidence in their knowledge on a subject. They believe themselves to be experts while only having a passing knowledge of a particular subject. Now that seems ridiculous, right? Come on. You read an article online and now suddenly you know exactly how the NASA moon landing happened. It's preposterous. The issue is, it happens over and over. It happens consciously and subconsciously. The actual study done by Kruger and Dunning found in a study of students, they performed 3 aptitude tests. In these tests, they found that among the lower third, the 12th percentile, the lowest percentile, the 12th percentile, did worse than 88% of the other students on this test believed that they had scored in the 65th percentile. They believed that they had done far better than their actual performance. Their level of self-confidence, which, while admirable, was completely misplaced and unfounded. On the flip side of that, we saw that the highest percentile, upwards of the 80th and the 90th percentile, believed that they too had placed in the 65th percentile. So on the flip side of the overconfidence, we see underconfidence. We see a lack of self-confidence, or rather, as was found in the study, a belief that their peers could do better than they did. Now, this is an interesting flip side. So let's dive into that first part, that overconfidence. You've seen, I'm sure, on the internet, a bell curve meme. You have a starting point, middle point, end point that is the same as a start point. This happens when a person who knows nothing knows that they know nothing. They are not confident in their ability to explain anything whatsoever. Someone who knows a little bit suddenly believes they're an expert, and someone at the end who is an expert believes they know nothing. This is because the person in the middle does not know that there is more to know. They believe, rightly or wrongly, it's usually wrongly, that the information that they received is the end-all be-all. This is a subconscious thing. This is not necessarily a conscious decision by them thinking that they know everything. More often than not, it is a subconscious feeling of having obtained knowledge, internalize that knowledge, and now being ready to regurgitate that knowledge. Down the end, we have someone who knows that they don't know everything, who knows that other people know things that they don't, while they, however, also have a wealth of knowledge. Now, the person on that middle of the bell curve, they are fools. This is, there's a famous quote from Charles Darwin that is, I think, rather applicable to the situation. Ignorance more frequently begets confidence than does knowledge. It is those who know little, and not those who know much, who so positively assert that the problem will never be solved by science. What that's saying, obviously, is that the person who knows little simply has confidence. They don't have knowledge. They just have confidence. Obviously, falsely misplaced confidence. Now let's talk about that second half of that. Let's talk about those people who are highly trained, but believe that their peers are better than them. This oftentimes is called the imposter syndrome. I've experienced it myself being a pilot, very often seeing my peers do better in some areas than me, and I do better than them in some areas. I will rationalize to myself, when I do better, I got lucky. I got lucky on that subject. I would just, for some reason, I did a little bit better, but they're better pilots than me. This may or may not be true. I do have friends who are better than pilots than me, and I have some that are the same as me. But that syndrome is, again, caused by that knowledge that other people know things that you don't know. The issue is that people disregard their own knowledge. They will toss their own experience out the window in favor of believing that others know better than them. Now, what is the solution to these? That's what we're here for, right? We're looking for a solution. The solution is humility. That's kind of an odd thing to say, right? Humility usually means being humble, bringing yourself down lower than you are. This is true, but that is not the full truth of what humility is. Humility starts with an understanding of oneself, a deep internal examination, and being able to, without overconfidence and pride, being able to place yourself in a particular place. For example, someone who doesn't know much, someone who's read a few articles, knows a little bit about it, starts to debate a physicist, someone who is trained for years on a particular subject. What they ought to do is think, I have only read a few articles, maybe I've read a couple books on it, but this person who is telling me that I am wrong and is giving me evidence has trained for 8 years. I am an amateur. I know nothing in this situation. So I should listen to what this person is saying and try to learn from them. On the flip side of that, a person who is highly experienced should internally look at themselves, acknowledge that they know what they are talking about. They have a reason to be confident. They are not overconfident. They are not prideful. They simply have knowledge. And that would solve many of these problems, though obviously not all of them. And it's much harder to do than it is to say. It's easy to say, oh, just examine yourself. And much harder to say, well, do I know what I'm talking about? Have I been well trained enough? Am I, blowing smoke? Am I just spewing out hot air? And that's where we have to have people around us who also know us and know a subject. For example, if I had read an article on physics and I wanted to talk about it, and I was debating somebody and they seemed to be making good points, it might be a good idea for me to go to a friend, or even if maybe this person I'm debating, and say, well, hold on now, I thought this was right. You're telling me it's not? And strive to learn more. Now, if you are somebody who is highly trained, look at the friends around you who ask you for advice, who ask you what you're doing. Think about how far you've come and how much you've put behind you. Then re-examine yourself. Really dig into why you're feeling that way. Most of the time it's a lack of confidence for no good reason. And then re-evaluate your standings in this place. These are some of the ways to avoid the Dunning-Kruger effect. However, this is by no means comprehensive. It is a multifaceted effect. It is a process to avoid both of these pitfalls. For example, in a study done by YouGov, they found that 50% of men thought they could land an airplane with no flight experience, a commercial airliner specifically. Now that is completely false. That is complete false confidence for most of them. Some of them surely are pilots or commercial pilots who have the knowledge and skills necessary to fly that. All they need to do is think, how long do those pilots train for to be able to do that safely? And then re-examine whether they could really land a Boeing 787 safely. Thank you for your time. You all have a wonderful day.